This episode of the Creep Street Podcast is brought to you by Martini Coffee Roasters. You know, people always look at me weird when I say I start off every morning with a big old martini. But then I set them straight, and I tell them I'm talking about Martini Coffee Roasters coffee. A delicious coffee made by the Martini family. They roast their coffee using a traditional method of sight and sound to roast those little babies to perfection. And they also sell green coffee beans for those home roasters out there. And right now, fans of the Creep Street Podcast can get 20% off their entire order by using the code CREEPSTREET at martinicoffee.com. Once again, for 20% off your order, use the code CREEPSTREET at martinicoffee.com. Martini Coffee Roasters, the perfect coffee to keep you creeps caffeinated.
You've taken a wrong turn down Creep Street.
Citizens of the Milky Way, this is Maureen Bogey.
And I'm Dylan Hackworth.
Whoa, okay. And you are listening... It was just silly. You're listening to the Creep Street Podcast.
Savory, sweet. Oh, it always goes down right.
Come on. But it's not... It's true. It's just that is the case.
Oh, yeah.
We are paired well with fish.
Yeah.
With chocolate. With fucking steak.
That's right.
But also a slice of cake.
Yeah.
Anywho, already off topic, but you know what? We're living large and there's no crime in that. So here's the deal. If you are a fan of the Creep Street Podcast, we implore you to leave a 5-star review or, you know, a recommendation or whatever. It may be a thumbs up, a subscribe, a follow. We will appreciate it so much. So thank you for that. You can follow us on Instagram at Creep Street Podcast, Twitter, we're at Creep Street Pod. We also are on TikTok at Creep Street Podcast. We have a Facebook, and on our Facebook we have a subgroup called Citizens of the Milky Way. There we have all sorts. It's just a lovely forum where anyone can post articles, questions, stories, photos, reviews, anything like that. On there, we also release a little bit early what our podcast episode is going to be for that week. So that's always very exciting stuff. So once again, you can check that out at Citizens of the Milky Way on Facebook.
Yeah.
Now, Dylan, do you think that one episode a week is enough?
I'd be a damn liar if I said I did.
Okay. On this, we agree.
Yeah.
Because one episode a week medically is not enough.
It's true.
We suggest that you head on over to patreon.com/Creep Street Podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, because there is where you are going to be able to get that bonus content.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking movie reviews, movie commentaries, short stories, interviews, full bonus episodes, and anything and everything in between.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to check that out. You just got to do it. It's at patreon.com/Creep Street Podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, gosh darn it, Dylan. What do we have in store today?
Today, it's been something I have been so excited to talk about. The title of today's episode is 2 Cursed Bridges. Now, why I'm excited is there's one story in particular that I've been wanting to tell, and that is the legend, the curse of the Bunnyman and the Bunnyman Bridge. But
yes,
there was never enough there to do a full episode on. But when I did the research for the Goatman episode for Encounters with Goatman, there were a number of ones where the Goatman was associated with a bridge. Well, now I was like, okay, well now there's a theme, a common theme I can use.
Yes.
So we've got 2 tales of cursed bridges, but let me rev your engine with my sources.
Okay, if you want.
The first is the book Goatman, Flesher Folklore by J. Nathan Couch. That was what I used as a source for the Encounters with Goatman episode. And then a wonderful Mysterious Universe article, Beware the Bunnyman by Brent Swanser.
Wow. So there's just so much to unpack here already, and I'm excited.
Oh my God, I hope you got your packing shoes on.
Yeah. First of all, I gotta say, there is just something about the place or the places that connect here from there.
Yeah.
These places that are neither here nor there.
Absolutely.
We're talking train stations. We're talking hallways.
Ooh.
We're talking crossroads.
Uh-huh.
And we're also talking bridges.
Oh, and let me tell you, when I said Tuker's Bridges, I don't mean Jeff and Bo.
Okay.
The Bridges brothers.
Right.
Jeff and Bo Bridges.
I gotta say, I'm glad you got that in.
Oh my God, I wonder if they ever went by the Brothers Bridges.
That would be cool.
The Brothers Bridges.
Yes. No, here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. However, going back to what I was just fucking talking about, if we can please.
Yeah.
Bridges are classic paranormal activity hotspots.
Hell yeah. Typically, they go over water.
Yeah.
Which is, water. I mean, we've talked about that many times. They say being on or near a water source seems to heighten paranormal activity.
Yeah. So, I mean, these things all come together to create some wacky shit.
Woo!
I mean, the first thing that's popping in my mind, the Mothman situation.
Absolutely. The Silver Bridge collapse, of course.
Yeah. But there have been many ghost encounters, sightings, things of that nature on bridges. So, you know what? It just, the paranormal, the weird, the unexplained bridges.
Yeah.
They're a match made in heaven.
They sure are. Well, Maureen, what do you say we dive into our first tale?
Yeah.
This first one, we go down to the state of Texas to discuss the Goatman's Bridge. Now, you'll remember that one of the Goatman legends we covered in our Encounters with Goatman episode was the Lake Worth monster.
Right.
The one that was apparently hiding out on Greer Island there.
Uh-oh.
Once again, water.
Yes.
Well, there is another arguably even more well-known Goatman legend just 40 miles north of Lake Worth in a town called Denton. More than most Goatman tales, though, this Goatman also happens to be a ghost. And it is here that it's said the ghost of the Goatman haunts the old Alton Bridge, but in recent years it has come to be known simply as Goatman's Bridge. The bridge itself is a 140-foot iron truss bridge that sits 30 feet above Hickory Creek. It was built way back in 1884 as a way to accommodate horse-drawn wagons, and because of this, the bridge is still very narrow. To this day, there was a time where only one car was allowed to pass at a time, and since 2001, cars have actually been forbidden from driving over it.
Oh, wow.
Now, the genesis of this particular legend has many variations. One story tells that a goat farmer and his herd were crossing the bridge when a swarm of drunk and rowdy cowboys came blazing through, forcing the goat herder and his herd off the bridge, where they all drowned. And since then, the farmer and his herd have been haunting the bridge. Another popular origin for this Goatman tale is one that's very common among other Goatman tales, is that it was somehow conjured by a satanic cult and is therefore a demonic sort of entity.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, it's got kind of a, it's got a devil vibe.
Now, the most common origin story for this particular Goatman tale is one that is rather bleak. Just a heads up.
Yikes.
The legend tells of an African-American goat farmer named Oscar Washburn, who lived nearby Hickory Creek with his family. It was 1938, and Oscar and his family became prominent and well-liked folks around Denton, and it's said the community as a whole really liked them. But, of course, given the time, the era, and whatnot, it's said that this angered a local group of KKK members, the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, God.
As the legend goes, in the dead of night, this group of assholes burst into the Washburn home, taking Oscar with them. They took him to Old Alton Bridge, and there they hanged him over the side of the bridge. And then a few moments later, it said they heard a splash and looked over the side of the bridge to find that Oscar's body was gone. Some say that this is because his head became detached from the force of the fall.
Oh, God.
But others say it simply vanished. Just when you thought this story could not get any worse, it said the group of men then returned to the Washburn house where they killed the rest of the family.
Oh my God.
Now, what's interesting is that when J. Nathan Couch was doing the research, he found that there was an Oscar Washburn that did exist, but he died in 1917 when he was apparently shot by his brother-in-law.
Oh.
Obviously, this does not sync up with the legend, but obviously these sorts of bad things did happen, so it might have been a thing where it kind of got, because those things did happen in that area and stuff, that the reality of those things maybe got absorbed into the legend.
Right.
But in this particular case, it seems that Oscar Washburn was actually killed in 1917 when he was shot by his brother-in-law.
Okay.
So I just wanted to clarify that. I know it's a very dark stuff, obviously. But there's another origin story that concerns a man named Jack Goatman Kendall.
Oh.
Jack was said to be an abusive drunk as well as a goat herder, and it's said that Jack had sex with his goats.
Oh, come on.
And inadvertently created the Goatman.
Yikes.
Now, this origin could only be found on one specific paranormal website, so it's very possible that this one was just kind of created as a joke.
Right.
It's said that Jack the Goatman killed his wife, Myrtle Mary, who also thus became the Goat Woman.
Oh.
And is said to haunt the also nearby Troll Bridge in the nearby town of Marshall, Texas.
The Troll Bridge.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, it wasn't long after this that it said the ghost of a half-man, half-goat person began stalking the surrounding area. Some even say that this headless ghost of Oscar Washburn returned to the bridge looking for his lost head. But when he couldn't find it, he tore the head off of one of his goats and placed it atop his body.
Oof.
In the decades since, many dares have been conjured up for those brave enough to venture there at night, specifically on Halloween night, which is a big theme we're going to see with Bunnyman Bridge here in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
One dare is to drive slowly across the bridge with the car's headlights off. Another is to park in the middle of the bridge and then honk the horn twice. It's said that if you do this, you will see the glowing red eyes of the Goatman on the other end of the bridge. But you better believe that all these warnings and the fact that cars aren't allowed on the bridge anymore, it does not stop rowdy teens. And what's interesting is that it says random abandoned cars will just appear by the bridge. Many blame the Goatman for this, just random cars abandoned by the bridge. Of course, Goatman Bridge is a very popular spot for paranormal researchers. One of the most notable is perhaps the Association for the Study of Unexplained Phenomenon, or ASUP for short. They are perhaps most well known for their investigation of the Amityville Horror House in the 1970s. In December of 2007, they came to Old Alton Bridge to investigate for a piece that they were writing for Fate magazine. In December of 2007, this paranormal group came to Old Alton Bridge to investigate, and they brought with them everything you'd expect: cameras, digital thermometers, and the like. While there, they witnessed a non-transparent glowing orange cloud that drifted across the trail near the bridge. And later that evening, they witnessed a misty apparition in the shape of a person. They also recorded sudden and drastic drops in temperature, upwards of 30 to 40 degrees. And one investigator felt a cold pressure on his arm, almost like a cold hand. They even claimed to see a man on a horseback that disappeared into the brush. Well, hopefully Goatman Bridge Tale has prepared your palate for what lies ahead.
Oh, God.
Because now, folks, we are headed to Virginia.
Oh.
To discuss the curse of the Bunnyman.
All right, here we go.
Now get ready for this. This story is wacky. And this one mixes many ingredients. It's part serial killer, but also part paranormal. And it is an urban legend that has probably been added to a lot over the years. However, what makes this story so terrifying is that some of it may actually be true, or at least based in truth. The story is about someone almost too strange to define. Is it the ghost of a madman? Who knows? This entity, which has stalked the woods of rural Virginia, is known as the Bunnyman. Our story starts in the early 1900s in Fairfax County, Virginia, near the town of Clifton. Well, at the turn of the century, Buried way back in the woods around Clifton, an asylum was erected that housed the patients that were considered to be of a particular threat to the wider populace. Well, in the locals, they did not like the idea of an asylum for the criminally insane near their quaint little country town. The locals were so upset that they petitioned to have the place shut down and the inmates moved elsewhere. Well, in response to this petition, apparently, a new facility was built in another location away from the town, and this place was apparently called Lorton Prison. So as the story goes, in the autumn of 1904, the inmates of the asylum were ushered into 15 transport buses, and they began the drive transferring them to Lorton Prison. Well, sometime during the drive, something ran out across the road, and one of the bus drivers had to swerve to avoid it. It's not sure what ran across the road, but the driver lost control of the vehicle, and it went careening off the road and crashed violently into the woods. Keep in mind, it was also nighttime when this happened. Many on board, including the driver, died in the crash, but not everyone perished. Suddenly freed, it's estimated that about 10 of the patients who survived the crash escaped into the woods.
Kind of like in Halloween.
Kind of like, especially in the new Halloween, where like the bus crashes. It's essentially almost exactly like that.
Yeah.
Authorities immediately began a search and investigation that lasted for several months, and they were actually to find all but 2 of the 10 patients who escaped. The 2 who escaped were a Marcus A. Walster and a Douglas J. Griffin. As the police continued their search for the 2 yet unfound escapees, they began to come across strange and unsettling things in the surrounding woods. Both police and folks that lived in the area would randomly find mutilated rabbit carcasses.
Oh, God.
And it was always specifically rabbits, not squirrels, not deer, always rabbits. And the state these rabbits were found in was rather alarming. It wasn't like the usual rabbit carcass that had been eaten by another animal or even hit by a car. Some of the dead rabbits would be hanging from trees. They would be partially dismembered or even completely skinned. And here's the freakiest part. The rabbits were often half eaten, with body parts scattered about. But when police examined the teeth marks, they were able to determine that they weren't from an animal predator. They were human.
Oh, so creepy.
Oh yeah. Well, as the police continued their search, they did happen to find one of the 2 still missing patients. They found Marcus A. Walster dead, hanging from under a bridge that was along the railroad tracks at Colchester Road. Though dead, they saw that one of Walster's hands had an ice-like grip around what was a self-made knife sort of tool that had been made using a sharp rock as a blade and a branch for a handle. But that wasn't all they found. Apparently dangling from the dead man's foot was a note that simply read, "You'll never find me, no matter how hard you try. Signed, the Bunnyman." And since then, the name Bunnyman was what this legend became. Police continued the search for the remaining escaped patient, Douglas Griffin. And as they did, they continued to find these mutilated animal corpses all around. Some on the ground, some hanging from trees. And all of them skinned with bites taken out of them. They had no idea of knowing for sure, but they began to believe that the escaped patient was the one responsible for both the dead rabbits and for the death of Walster. The authorities continued the manhunt all through the autumn and winter, coming up with nothing. With no clue as to the whereabouts of Douglas Griffin, the search officially ended that spring on April 7th of 1905. Though no sight of the escaped man could ever be found, the locals were forever under this cloud of fear that he was lurking out there. And they may very well have been right. Later that year, on Halloween 1905, the Bunnyman apparently returned.
Whoa.
Colchester Bridge near Clifton, Virginia. This was the bridge where they had found the body of Marcus A. Walster hanging. Since then, it had come to be known as Bunnyman Bridge for obvious reasons. Well, as I said, it's Halloween night, 1905, and a group of teenagers looking for a good scare went down to Bunnyman Bridge, and a good scare is exactly what they got. 3 of the teenagers were later found dead, but not just merely dead. Apparently, their throats had been cut, and they had long slashes going up and down their abdomens as if they had been gutted, just like the rabbits had been found.
Oh.
This, of course, caused a ruckus for the locals, and everyone was in fear. Parents warned their children to not go anywhere near Bunnyman Bridge. The Bunnyman would return exactly 1 year later on Halloween of 1906. Once again, a wild group of teens couldn't resist the thrill of a good Halloween scare, and a group of 7 of them had apparently gathered at Bunnyman Bridge for a night of partying. One of the teens in attendance that night was a young gal named Adrienne Hawala. She took the stories of the Bunnyman much more serious than her friends did, and while they were able to convince her to come along, the source says she just kind of kept her distance. She was never able to really let her guard down and enjoy herself. Her instincts, though, would prove to be correct, as she would be the only one to survive that night. Later, when being questioned by authorities, Adrienne claimed that she spotted a dim light that was slowly approaching the bridge. Suddenly, right at midnight, there came a blinding flash of light that began beaming from under the bridge itself. Stunned by the bright light, which made it too bright to see anything, Adrienne could hear the terrified screams of her friends from under the bridge. She ran towards the commotion as quickly as she could, and what she found was truly horrific. Each of her friends were hanged from the bridge, their bodies also mutilated, just like the previous victims. Adrienne ran home and apparently was so shaken by what she had seen that she was only really able to mumble. What sucks most of all about this is that authorities apparently charged her with the murders of her friends, and she was locked away in a mental asylum for the rest of her life until her death in 1953.
Oh my God.
Apparently, her cause of death is unknown, only that she died in her sleep. Apparently, Lorton Asylum was the same place the Bunnyman was headed to when they escaped the bus. That's where she was sent.
Oh, wow.
7 years later, on Halloween night of 1913, the same thing would happen again to a group of 9 teenagers.
Whoa.
Well, if folks hadn't been taking the Bunnyman legend seriously by now, they were going to after 1913. Nothing would happen again until Halloween night of 1943, when a group of 6 teenagers decided to take a Halloween stroll to Bunnyman Bridge. So, apparently to the legend, in 1913, the same thing happened to 9 teenagers.
Oh,
hanged
my God.
and gutted. As you'd expect, though, in 1943, when another group of 6 teenagers went,
Oh, no.
they were all found dead, hanged beneath the bridge, their bodies mutilated like the victims before them.
I mean, will teens ever learn?
I don't know. Police would conduct an investigation, but as always, were unable to find anything. But 2 of the strangest Bunnyman encounters would happen a few decades later in October of 1970. The day was October 19th, and a young Air Force cadet by the name of Bob Bennett was out for a leisurely drive with his fiancée.
Ooh.
When they decided to park the car along the side of Guinea Road so the two could just chat and enjoy each other's company, probably smooch a little bit, I'm guessing.
Come
you know
on.
what I mean.
Keep it PG-13, please.
I'll try, but man, it sounds hot and heavy. Well, this couple is chatting, and when they notice some movement outside the vehicle that catches their eye like a brief white blur, they each pause and look, and they both swore they could have seen something, but they just shrugged it off. And then, bang. Suddenly, the windshield of the car is smashed, sending glass spraying everywhere into the car. The couple is stunned, and they hear a terrifying voice shout, "You're on private property, and I have your tag number." The couple drove away in a flash, and as they were speeding away, they found a hatchet laying in the floor of the car. While they weren't able to get a good look at the attacker, they swore to police that whoever did it was wearing a full-body bunny costume.
What?
Bob Bennett even told his superiors at the Air Force Base. A mere 2 weeks after the Bennett's encounter, the Bunnyman would strike again. This time it happened to a man named Paul Phillips, who worked as a private security guard for a construction company. He was going about his business when he spotted a man dressed in a full-body bunny outfit, a rabbit costume, standing in front of a house that was under construction. As he approached the man, he apparently said to him,
"All you people trespass around here. If you don't get out of here, I'm going to bust you on the head."
The man then turned around and began to vigorously whack at the house with an axe. Paul ran back to his car to retrieve his firearm, but when he turned back around, the Bunnyman had disappeared into the woods. Well,
Wow.
so keep in mind, like I said, this is an urban legend. I'm sure a lot of this stuff, like who knows if it seems a lot like 9 teenagers die all hanged and gutted, and then on the next year, 6 more. I get it. But some of this stuff apparently did happen, especially back in the day. Now, like I said, a lot of stuff I'm sure has been added, but there is a kernel of truth somewhere in there, which makes it so freaky.
Oof. And there's just something about someone dressed up in a bunny costume that's just so creepy.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Well, after this, the floodgates opened, and that same night, after the security guards saw a Bunnyman guy whacking at a house, Bunnyman sightings began pouring in. Apparently, there were over 50 reported sightings of this man, and all of the sightings were very similar.
Oh.
Not only were the reports of the Bunnyman's appearance similar, but many of the folks reporting the sightings shared similarities too, in that it was often reported by couples who saw the Bunnyman from their car.
Ooh, and that's definitely like a serial killer thing.
Right, and it's a trope like the hook, that old urban legend of the hook, and then they drive away and later there's like a hook stuck in the door.
Yeah.
Like that's a very, for sure. There was usually a hatchet of some kind, either in the Bunnyman's hand or left behind. It seems the Bunnyman had also had a passion for vandalizing people's homes. There have also been numerous unsolved murders in the area where the Bunnyman is said to roam, but obviously there's no way to link the murders to the Bunnyman. And I'm assuming many of them didn't bear the hallmarks of the Bunnyman victims, which is usually being hanged and mutilated. But in 1976, on Halloween apparently, a group of 3 teenagers once again fell victim to the Bunnyman in traditional fashion, found hanged from Bunnyman Bridge with their bodies mutilated.
Wow.
From about the mid-70s on, the Bunnyman became cemented in urban legend status. It's no doubt that despite whatever nuggets of truth there are in the story, there have been many things added over the years, like I said. Lots of stuff added to the mythos that either may not be true or, are true but are unrelated to the Bunnyman. So there maybe were murders out there, but they just kind of by being in close quarters to the bridge, the area, they get added to the mythos. They get added to that victims list. By now, the Bunnyman had become a staple on Halloween for those who lived in the area. Another such story adding to the legend apparently happened on Halloween night in 1987. A young woman named Janet Charlatier was out with 4 of her friends hanging out at Bunnyman Bridge. Janet herself was not a believer in the story and was just having a good time with her friends. Everything was fine up until midnight. Apparently, there came a blinding flash of white light, and Janet felt something slash her across the chest. She turned to run, but ran into something hanging in her way that knocked her out cold. Later, she would awaken to find she had run into one of the bodies of her friends who had all been hanged from Bunnyman Bridge. She had been slashed herself, but not fatally so. To top it off, the shock of this experience had apparently turned the young woman's hair white.
Whoa.
Police received another call about what the witnesses claimed was an Axeman wearing a full Bunnyman costume. Police sent out a car to investigate, but they were unable to find any sign of an intruder. But just after returning back to the station, the police received an eerie follow-up call by a strange anonymous man who said,
"You've been messing up my property. By dumping tree stumps, limbs, and brush and other things on the property, you can make everything right by meeting me tonight and talking about the situation."
Well, this is, really unsettled the police, and they apparently set up a little stakeout in the area to find out who this wacko was. The man in charge of the investigation was a man named W.L. Johnson, and though they were never able to find the mysterious man, he had this to say.
"After a very extensive investigation into this and all other cases of this same nature, it is still unsubstantiated as to whether or not there really is a white rabbit. The only people who have seen this so-called white rabbit have been children or rather young ages, and the complainant in this case. Upon interviewing everyone in this case that may have had any knowledge of any incidences concerning a white rabbit, there has been no significant information uncovered that would lead to the identity of the person or persons that were posing as a white rabbit. This case will be marked as inactive.
The most recent claim happened to a group of 6 local students who were out there with a guide. Now, fortunately, none of them met the fate that all the others before them had. However, they did claim to come across mutilated rabbit corpses.
Ooh.
On top of that, they claim to see shadowy figures stalking about in the woods. So let's break down what is said to happen during an attack, because I think this is interesting.
Okay.
First of all, the attacks come right at midnight, especially on Halloween night. And it's said at first you see a dim light that approaches, and then right before the victims die, a bright flash of light erupts under the bridge. The Bunnyman appears and then guts and kills his victims. So what is it about this light? It's almost like, is it like a portal or something? Like, what is this flash of light?
Yeah, that's very odd.
And why is it necessary for him to do this murder? Like, what about this light is necessary, is essential to what he does or to him at all?
Is it like a portal? Is it just some kind of energy? Is it, I don't know. That's very bizarre.
Exactly. Well, I just wanted to tack this on here at the end because I thought it was very interesting, but rabbits have long been symbols in many religions and cultures, even in the occult.
Oh.
Actually, the term fluffy bunny has long been used as an insult in pagan circles.
Oh.
It started in Wicca. One would perhaps call another Wiccan a fluffy bunny if it was perceived that their interest in Wicca was purely out of superficial or consumerist motivations, you know, like being a Wiccan because you just think it's cool. You want to be cool. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Wannabes, essentially, is what they're saying.
Posers.
The insult has since evolved into many, many things. Many pagan circles will refer to all Wiccans as fluffy bunnies, indicating that, you know, Wicca is somehow inauthentic or an inauthentic expression of pagan practices. But that's just, you know, as someone who's not a Wiccan, or I just find that interesting that it's become this like insult, you know.
Yeah, but those are both some really weird ass stories where it's like,
oh yeah,
what in the hell is going on? What's real? What's fake? I don't know. But just the fact that there is these legends around these places just make them feel that much more otherworldly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dylan, thank you so much for doing all of that fantastic research.
Of course.
If you all know about any other spooky bridge stories or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us on any of our socials, or you can email us at creepstreetpodcast@gmail.com, and maybe we'll do a follow-up episode, or maybe do something for the Patreon. Who knows?
And there's many bridges that are said to be haunted or cursed that have nothing to do with, costumed killers.
Right.
I have just always loved this Bunnyman urban legend, but it was never quite long enough that we could do a whole episode for it. Well, like I said, I think we've done it on the Patreon. We've done it live at C2E2 here in Chicago. But so when I was studying the Goatman's Bridge, I was like, you know what? This will be the perfect way to sort of give an episode a theme where I can include it. So
right,
there
absolutely.
we go. But folks, I got a list of names I wouldn't mind meeting me under a bridge.
Okay. Well, okay.
Folks, give it up for our top-tier Patreon subscribers. Of course, the Dream James Watkins, the Finnish Face Via Lungfist, the Madman Marcus Hall, the Vivacious Vicky McHugh, the Tenacious Teresa Hackworth, the Heartbreak Kid Chris Hackworth, the Oh-So-Suave Sean Richardson, the British Bonebreaker Bex Martin, the Notorious Nicholas Barker, the Terrifying Taylor Lashmet, the Count of Cool Cameron Corliss, the Archduke of Attitude Adam Archer, the Sinister Sam Kiker, the Nightmare of New Zealand Noeline Vivilli, the Loathsome Johnny Love, the Carnivorous Kevin Bogey, the Killer Stud Carl Staub, the Firestarter Heather Carter, the Conqueror Christopher Damian Damaris, the Awfully Awesome Annie, the Murderous Maggie Leach, the Sir of Sexy Sam Hackworth, the Evil Elizabeth Riley, Lauren Hellfire Hernandez Lopez, the Maniacal Laura Maynard, the Vicious Karen Van Buren, the Arch Nemesis Aaron Bird, the Sadistic Sergio Castillo, the Rapscallion Ryan Crum, the Beast Benjamin Huang, the Devilish Chris Doucette, the Psycho Sam, the Electric Emily Jeong, the Ghoulish Gert Hankum, the Renegade Corey Ramos, the Crazed Carlos, the Antagonist Andrew Park, the Monstrous Michaela Schur, the Witchy Wonder J.P. Weimer, and the Freaky Ben Forsyth.
Wow. Can I just say, whoa.
Please do.
Thank you so much to our top tier Patreon subscribers. We are so grateful for you. Thank you for all that you do for us. You are the best. We also love all of you equally, though. You're all fantastic. Thank you for listening. You are all lovely. Please like, rate, subscribe, tell a friend about us, tell family about us, post about us on social media, scream it out a window. I mean, do what you gotta do.
Absolutely.
We are grateful for you and very appreciative for all that you do to spread the good word of Creep Street Podcast.
Yes, I love you. Maureen loves you. Banshee loves you.
Oh, yeah, babe.
Citizens of the Milky Way, my name is Dylan Hackworth.
I'm Maureen Bogey.
Good night and goodbye.
Goodbye.